Hey, Juventini, welcome to the All Juve cast. This is episode 5, I believe, of the new
Who
season.
knows?
It's kind of all a blur because it's been marred in frustrations, unfortunately. But we're going to cover Juve Milan, 1-1 draw. And yeah, this one did not pan out the way we thought it was going to after the promising beginning to it in the first half. But we're going to start off by welcoming new addition to the All Juve cast team. Big signing. We broke the bank despite restrictions during the pandemic and whatnot, tight finances. But here's Cliff joining the team. Cliff, man, welcome aboard.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I'm really excited to get to work. I know everybody on this team is super, passionate about Juve and about Serie A. So I'm really excited to be joining the team. It's an honor and a privilege. So very humbling to be part of a good team.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And of course, Omar and Anthony. Anthony connection seems good today. He's not freezing up here.
Let's just give it time. Let's just if I leave, you know what happened. I'm gonna go into the sweat hogs into the bleachers. So let's just not talk about it. It might not happen. So let's just
there you go. There you go. And we got a tradition here when new guests join and whatnot. But now, he's a team member. But Cliff, we always like getting people's story on how they became fans of Juve. So if you got a couple minutes, just share briefly how you came to be a Juventino.
So everybody hates this story because it's kind of a weird one. But I grew up watching at my nonno's house every weekend. I go to my nonno's house. We watch any Serie A match. Growing up, I didn't really understand like soccer that much. I wasn't a huge fan. Like when I was younger, I didn't even know who my family supported. I now know they're Napoli fans. Um, but I was younger, and we'd always watch the games. And the two teams, or two or three teams that were always on, were Juve, Napoli, and Milan. So it was really between those three teams. I loved the kits because I was watching these Juve matches probably like mid 2000s, late 2000s. So I fell in love with those kits. Del Piero, I fell in love with. And then when Pirlo went to Juventus, that was kind of when it solidified my love of him because the World Cup, obviously, Pirlo was huge for that. And when he joined Juve, I'm like, this is my guy. This is when I started getting into soccer. I started probably like late 2000s. I got really into it, like 2009, 10, 11. Then Pirlo joined. I'm like, okay, this is my team. And then the rest is history.
Nice, nice. Well,
I have
Del
socks.
Piero's
I have socks that are older than that story. But hey, welcome. It's great to have you aboard.
It is great to have you aboard. Okay, so without further ado, Milan, Juve, big match. It was a big one for Juve. We get the starting lineups, and we went through on our match day live, and I had an interesting little comment there. Ant probably didn't catch it because he was in the boiler room trying to get the internet going, but we got. I said maybe this could be a match where you use Bonucci with Chiellini or Delict, either one of the other guys, but you probably want Bonucci in there as it was speculated that he was going to be resting. And I said, you probably want him in there, especially how Milan attacks, because even if they were hurting on certain guys and injuries, his ball movement was impressive to say the least against Malmo, and you're probably going to want that. And honestly, it was pretty good even against Milan, and that was a great center back partnership, and that was really the only change. You had Chiellini and Bonucci from the projected lineup. Chiellini, Bonucci, Danilo, Sandro, and Szczesny, of course, in goal. Across the middle, Quadrado, Bentancur, Locatelli, Rabiot with Dybala, Morata. No issues with the lineup whatsoever, and we knew what these guys were going to do. Yeah, it just really came up to us taking advantage and going at the guys and going at Milan. And we did. We did. We kicked it off in the best fashion. You get Morata on a picture-perfect counterattack where Sandro cuts off a ball, Dybala pops it through two defenders, and Morata's off to the races. Hernandez can't catch him, and a beautiful finish, chipping it over Mignon. 1-0 Juve. Let's go. Let's go.
And you can't understate how difficult that is, having to run, what is that, 80 yards with someone chasing you, keeping the ball
right from half.
It's not easy.
And then
No,
to have the composure to finish that chip, that's not easy to do that.
no, it's fantastic. It was a great start, and honestly, it was a solid first half from Juve, but it did leave me wanting a bit more because we should have punished them. We should have punished them and really put Milan to the sword. We didn't. Second half, big drop off from Juve, big drop off, and now 76th minute there. The one guy, Anthony said, the one guy you got to
One
worry
guy.
about and stop, really. And he gets a free header. Frustrating because for all the flack Chesney takes, he actually called this one out to Rabiot, pointing exactly where he wanted him. Rabiot's on his feet standing there, not attacking the ball. And Locatelli, unfortunately, not with Rebic, uncontested header. It goes in 1-1. After that, Juve really dropped off, and we owe Chesney for this 1 point because without him making a massive stop on the brown cow there over on the right, I call him the brown cow. I don't know what his name's, Kalua. Sound like Kalulu, whatever.
Kalulu.
Yeah, yeah, Kalua. Great drink. Anyways, yeah, brutal letdown from Juve. Okay, luckily, Kalulu left a lot to be desired, probably for the Milan fans, but Chesney with a big save there. We get out of here 1-1, man, and of course the overreactions begin. But some frustration needs to be set in, and now we'll start kind of talking about this. For me, and a lot of Juventini, it's a draw that feels like a loss. And I just continue to say, I do see a big improvement in the team. There's a massive improvement. There's a big difference when we see our regulars that are constantly playing, like start to play now consistently, but it's still not there. And a sharp team would have punished this Milan, especially in the first half. There was a ton of space to be taken. And again, though, it's getting better. It's getting better. The only thing is, we got to stop saying it's getting better and we need to start getting the results. That's what it comes down to. This game, for me, real quick, before we get to all you guys, tactics, subs, all that goes out the window. Personnel, this was simply a team that just wasn't precise enough. Precision is what killed Juve because there was opportunities there to be taken where our passes weren't where they needed to be. The attempts weren't nearly enough, and it was just that little bit of precision is how I felt. And that just shows, again, much more work to do. But guys, let's start going around the horn and get your takes on this particular match and your thoughts on it. We're going to kick it off with Cliff. Let's get Cliff going here.
So really the first thing that I noticed was that, we played a really strong first half. We looked really good. And I think Betancourt, Rabiot, and Locatelli doesn't look like a bad midfield trio. Locatelli does the work defensively. Betancourt has a little bit of hold-up play with good passes, good movement. And then Rabiot can go up and attack because he's not very adept to go back and defend. He's a very bad defender. We saw that multiple occasions, obviously, on the clear header from Rebic. But really, we need to, or Allegri needs to learn how to adapt in the second half because Betancourt was playing very well in the first half, but then he looked like he ran out of steam coming into the second half. So I think Allegri needs to be aware of that and needs to say, okay, we're coming on the 50th minute, 55th minute. Let's take Betancourt out, give him a rest, put McKinney in, solidify that defense. And we have that energy that he brings, and he also is a goal-scoring threat at times. So you don't just get the defensive work rate, you get the offensive work rate as well. But it needs to be said that Morata played well. Dybala, whenever he touched the ball, was world class. His little flick passes were phenomenal. Even that little tussle with Tonali, I'd love to see that little bit of edge to him. And then Tech, it needs to be said, if we're gonna criticize Tech as much as he's played bad, we have to give him the praise when he plays well. He had a good game. He made some very key saves. So I think all in all, obviously a draw is not the result that we wanted. We looked like we could have won the match in the first half, but I think we were lucky to come out with a draw the way the second half started unfolding near the end.
Yeah, and a great recap there from Cliff. I will challenge a couple items. One, I think Dybala had a big drop off in the second half. I think he was phenomenal in the first half. Phenomenal first half, but I think second half we needed more from him. The midfield. Locatelli struggled in this one, but not really due to his own, more situationally because Milan played that way. They wanted to kind of, you could see they were just trying to, he had to drop so far back that he became just basically irrelevant in terms of our play buildup and any kind of attack coming through him whatsoever. This left the door open for Bentancur and Rabiot. My issue with these two guys playing is that they are both complementary midfielders. I don't see them needing to share the pitch at the same time. That's my personal opinion. Now we get to Omar and Anthony. How do you guys feel about that? These two guys on the same time. I think McKennie's a nice change.
How do you feel, Omar?
To be honest. And we saw this a couple times, and we saw the two of them. Number one, they both ran into each other once. I thought they were going to knock each other out. The one time, Bentancur had an easy pass to Rabiot. Easy one. And he plays it so far ahead of him. Rabiot's caught off guard. He's trying to stay onside for one. And Mignon just cuts it off easily. And Rabiot had another opportunity where he couldn't even get a shot off because he got caught up to trying to run up the pitch there and try and get a goal. We're screaming for that driving, attacking midfielder. I said this too, and I was shouting for it all last season. I said, regardless of Locatelli coming in, we're still one profile short, in my personal opinion, in the midfield. Ramsey could be the guy if he wasn't camped out in medical. He could potentially be, but McKennie might be the guy that needs to play in there with one of Rabiot and Bentancur next to Locatelli. Does things change when Artur comes back? Because then Locatelli could be one of those side guys and makes a bigger difference. Omar, what do you think about Rabiot and Bentancur sharing the pitch?
Well, I talked about it in the last pod. I still think they're very similar and they offer pretty much the same stuff. I think Artur is missing. And Locatelli might be that push forward midfielder we're looking for, but no, we don't have a regista right now. And maybe Artur can do it better and push Locatelli a bit forward. And these guys don't work well together. It's like the third season we've seen them play. It just doesn't work. But the game overall wasn't as bad as it might look from the last 15 minutes. Because if you look at individual performances, like everyone, Danilo, Sandro, even Bentancur, Locatelli, Morata, Dybala, everyone sort of played their part and did what they had to do. There wasn't like a bad performance from someone. Only Rabiot losing Rebic out there, and that pretty much cost us the match. And there was a big drop off afterwards, mentally, most of all. But I do see an improvement. I think Milan have like the same process we have. They're just a bit further ahead, and they filled in those roles that they were missing, like it's there were 9 days of Frank Kessie or Tonali, and when Kessie came out, so Benasser did pretty much the same, and they were missing a lot of guys, but there was an improvement from the Napoli match, certainly from the Empoli match. It just needs to start getting results because these improvements doesn't worth shit if the results are not there by the end.
Yeah. Anthony, your thoughts?
Am I the only positive one here? We were asking for 45 minutes. That first 45 was fantastic. That's the best Dybala we've seen in I don't know how long. So the first 45 was good. I'm not going to rehash what these two guys have already said because they're spot on. The two things I'll touch on is in the 69th minute, no pun intended, you could see the game was just wide open. And it was asking for substitutions 5 minutes before that. So I'm fully on board that Max is going to get that right down the road. And he has, he's not used to the 5 subs. Is it an excuse for Max? Yeah, because I'm going to give him more time. We've also played 2 teams in the top 4, so let's not panic. And okay, Empoli and Udinese, those points shouldn't have been dropped, but we still have time. We're going to run through the bottom of the table, the teams that are right beside us. And, those all have to be maximum points. Another thing that was an interesting tweet. I think there was someone put out there. I had to write it down. This is something that really has to change. First half goals this season, all competitions, 7. Second half, 0.
0.
Conceded. First half 1, second half 5. So that's something that's fatigue. That's all that is. It's fatigue. So once we get the team in that we need, I think Chiesa is that piece that we're missing. How are we going to fit him in there? I'd like to hear what the guys say about that. But my two things were basically it was fatigue and substitutions. Other than that, I thought the game was fine, but it was just way too wide open at about the 70th minute on, and it was asking for we were asking for Milan to score that goal.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Hearing Max's words after the match saying he needed to go more defensive because the game was in the bag at 1-0.
Was he joking? Was that a joke?
I have no idea.
I didn't listen to it, but that sounds like him kind of taking a shot to say, "Oh, I gotta watch that." If maybe somebody in the comments in the sweat hogs there can help.
I don't know. I don't know. It's I'd hope
it's concerning.
I'd hope it was a joke because honestly, that game to me screamed, we need to put these guys away.
Yes.
Especially with the amount of space that was allowed in the first half. And here's another like frustration of mine is that you've got a Milan that is ripe for the picking there. And I said it, a team with more precision there would absolutely have smashed that Milan the way they played yesterday and all that space, acres of space. We finish up with, well, we talked about it, 9 attempts on target, 4 on goal. Not good enough. We are still not coming up with enough opportunities and when we break down the first half, that was considered great in terms of what we've seen so far this season. We started looking at the opportunities that we did have and create. They weren't all that good. It was just the hype up, and I think the crowd making the noise, and you're kind of revved up because we scored in the 4th minute. But outside of that, you've got a Dybala shot with his right foot from like 27, 28 yards. You've got Morata trying to deflect a cross over to goal, short side from like Sandro.
Bonucci's header off that free kick, that should have went in the back of the net. He had a free header that went over.
Which one? Sorry?
Bonucci's header off the free kick.
Yeah.
He had a clean look at that. And
Yeah.
the other one would have been Keane. I think it was off a corner kick. Rabiot headed it back in, and Keane kind of had like a behind him side volley. Other than that, you're right, Al. There was nothing.
There was that long ball from Bonucci. There was a long ball from Bonucci to Rabiot, which he connected and didn't go on target, but it was a good attempt. It's what I expect from a midfielder.
Yeah. And again, I mean, for me, though, it's something that it's alarmingly bringing me back to Allegri's first stint towards the end. And it was just the team needed to be so clinical because of how little we actually generated in terms of quality opportunities. And I'm starting to get that concern again. I'm hoping it'll shift and it'll change once we get everything going and whatnot. But so far, right now, this team is tasked with having to be very, very clinical. And I'm almost concerned a bit with Allegri trying to be a little too defensive. And again, I hope that comment was kind of tongue-in-cheek because we're just not that team anymore. We're not that team anymore where you have guys that you can rely on at the back that will shut the door completely. You have Barzagli, Bonucci, Chiellini, and Buffon at the back. Buffon is a once-in-a-lifetime guy, okay? Once in a lifetime. That partnership, Bonucci, Barzagli, and Chiellini, that's almost a once-in-a-lifetime type scenario. You put all 4 of those guys at the back, I don't care if you score 10 seconds into the game. You could finish up 1-0 if you wanted. We're not that team anymore. And the second half drop-offs, fatigue, whatever it is, he has got to sort it out. And this has been something that's not just Allegri, the second half drop-offs. Because this is like Sorry, this is Pirlo. This is
It's fitness.
yeah. So they gotta look bigger here and figure this out. But I do see a little bit of a trend going, and I'm hoping we could shake it. Cliff, you gonna drop a comment here?
So yeah, I was gonna say in terms of you said we don't have that defense in the goalie like we used to. Also, it's worth noting when Allegri played very pragmatically back in the day, he had a class midfield. We don't have the midfield that can hold up play, who can hold possession as well as we can still hold possession well, but we don't have Pirlo, Pogba, Vidal, Marquisio. We don't have these type of players where we can just hold the ball at will like we used to. Obviously, I think the attack is there. I think the defense is still very good considering we benched a lit. We benched literally one of the world's best center backs for Bonucci, who's been in good form. So, being able to do that, I think we have the attack and the defense down. It's really just the midfield because when Chiesa's in, Morata, Keane, like we have probably some of the best depth in terms of forward talent in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you watch this game, though, those subs come in, our game doesn't change at all. Why? Like Chiesa comes in, no impact. Kulishevsky comes in, granted short minutes, but nothing really changes. So I'm starting to think like maybe it's just not a plug and play type system, and Max has to figure out that he's got to change things up based on who's out there. Because if he tries to keep that setup the same, it hasn't really worked that much. And I
I
don't know
will
if
say
it's a
though,
timing thing, but
when we put Keane in, I will say we got some good chances. Once Keane went in, I felt like a spark when Keane went in. There were good chances, there were good opportunities. He didn't finish them, but there were some good opportunities for him to show, and I think that will come through the season. He'll start finishing some of those chances.
No, I think it came down to fatigue from the midfield. I'm pretty shocked they didn't substitute anyone from the midfield because
yeah.
when you want to be in a team's throat, then the midfielders have to press that rebound, that second ball. And by the time all those subs came in and brought in some energy, there was no one to recover and to join them in the attack and give them the ball. And that kind of killed it. They all just stayed back to avoid getting another goal, and it sort of killed us. It's not like Allegri type of thing to do, and especially when you have midfielders on the bench, not like the game against Napoli where you have nothing basically. So it came down to this fatigue most of all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the one thing that shocked me is Bentancur and Rabiot were both gassed, completely gassed, and we should have got one change in there. Well, we didn't get any changes in there. We should have got a change in there. Anthony, you want to touch on the subs? It's been a topic on Allegri for sure.
Well, Luca, cast member here, he was piping up on Twitter about you change all the forwards but not the midfielders, and he was right. You could just simply see it. As soon as that momentum shifted, you switch to midfielders, and they're coming in sort of a defensive type of game now. Right now, they're not thinking of moving forward. They're thinking of, okay, that's just mentally. That's what a player goes to. They can feel how the game's moving, and if we made those changes earlier, we have a little bit more momentum going forward. Players have a different mindset. He was way too late. I'd say 10 minutes late on those substitutions, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm okay with the draw against Milan. It's unfortunate that it's a draw at home. You'd want to take those draws away, but I'm still not hitting the panic button.
No, and I don't
No.
think it is time to hit the panic button. I put out a tweet today, and it just basically, I was just reiterating things I've felt for a while, really. And it's just, I said last season, okay, Pirlo did well when you consider everything, okay? Taking everything into account, Pirlo did well. And I said Allegri or whoever you wanted to bring in, Zidane, whatever, whoever you brought in was going to have issues based on the roster we have. It's not saying these players are not good enough, even if we think some of them are not to the Juve caliber, the standard we should set. It's more the fact of we've assembled our roster. which is one of my knocks that I had on Paratici, was he was getting away from the team building, and it was a lot of opportunities, market opportunities and all this. And I thought we got away from what we succeeded in. A lot of people think that a lot of the discussion that's been going around as of late is that we got away from what made us good, which was finding sleepers and everything like that and whatnot. Look, talking about Pogba, Vidal, and Barzagli and whatnot. Look,
Those
you
days are
can't
over.
bank. You cannot bank on finding sleepers and them just panning out to be these guys like that. That's honestly like you stick on that, and it was magic when it happened. You can't bank on that. It's so hard to create. The biggest thing in the grand scheme of things for me that we got away from was the team building. It's not how you find, who you find, whatnot. It's the pieces. We talked about in our midfield having a lot of guys that are similar. And when you start looking outside of our main 11 and for other guys that can fill in voids, it's decent, but it's not 100% there. It's not 100% there. It's the team building aspect we need to get back to and whatnot. But I said, Pirlo did well considering. I thought Allegri was going to struggle with the players he has, because we have, again, in the midfield, we're still screaming for this creative driving force and some goals out of there, some serious goals out of there. But again, the biggest thing we all need is just patience and just to finally create some stability somewhere and to calm down and trust the process. If we keep hitting the panic button, and if management keeps hitting the panic button and swapping coaches left, right, and center and second guessing themselves at every turn, when is it going to actually grow?
I don't think this management's hitting that panic button, though.
No, they're not. They're not right now, but it was a little scrambly after Allegri first left. I think the situation could have been dealt with a lot better. I don't think you get rid of Allegri unless the guy that you want 100% is coming in. If all of a sudden you're like, oh, we settled for Sarri, why do it in the first place? If you didn't want Sarri and Allegri and Agnelli, didn't want Sarri in the first place, why do it in the first place? This is what I mean. It was a little bit scrambly at that spot. I think what they're doing now is great. I think if we keep this core together a couple of years, look out, right? And yeah, there might be some growing pains. We're seeing some of it now. It might be ugly. It might be a rough season. Sometimes you just gotta take that. I mean,
and we have a young team. Our team is very, very young.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you talk about all these, like the second half drop offs, all this and whatnot. Trial by fire for a lot of them, and they're gonna have to just live through this and deal with it. It wasn't.
Omar's got something.
It is what it is. Omar, let's go.
Yeah, I want to relate to what you said. I think Marotta was a bit ahead of his time with figuring out those players running out of contracts. But since then, the market has shifted and the prices went up. So now everyone is looking for those so-called free deals. And Juve kept trying to do that, but with a lot more competition. So suddenly the options around Europe or around the world became more and more problematic. And take it back 7 years ago, no one would have taken Rabiot. But you don't have players like Pirlo and such just walking around with no contract waiting. And if you do have them, then it comes down to the agent and his fee. We could have had Donnarumma 10 years ago. We might have been able to sign Messi because all the signing bonuses and stuff just went to crazy numbers that reflect on nothing. So I believe we should stop looking for them unless it's someone who really wants to come to Juve. But other than that, we can't offer much more than the other big teams in Europe can. And mid to lower table teams in England can offer much more money than we can to top tier players.
Yeah, that's another aspect of it for sure. I mean, the market's changed drastically. We all know that. We all see it. Now you throw in how tight it is financially. I mean, we covered the numbers very well on the pregame show, and it's gonna be tough times. It's gonna be troubling.
But
they have to be very, very smart. They have to be very, very smart. Anthony,
for next season, you look at You have, I'm not going to get into the whole, what I think of him now or tomorrow. Like Ravella, he's right there. You have that player potentially coming in next season. Fajoli scored yesterday in Serie B, whatever, but that gets people excited. So there are young players in the system, and I think Juventus is going to be forced to use some of them in the upcoming seasons, which a lot of fans have been asking for, anyways.
Yeah, and
but you have to add sometimes some players with a bit more experience, like when
100%,
we got in Khedira for free. He was a world champion and won the Champions League, and he came in for free. So it kind of worked both ways. If you only use those young guys, then you're never going to get those experience, and just the procedure will become longer, and they'll have to go through those mental things with us instead of with other teams.
But the other thing is too, talking about those guys, even if we take those players, Fagioli and Rovella, whatever, they're not the guy. We are still not the profile we're looking. So we're still short. Out of all the young guys right now, currently at Juve, the profile that would probably help the most is Sule. He's not ready. He's not ready yet, though. And he would need time. Would he be ready next season? No. So they're going to have to find somebody in the market. The only thing that could change things, and it isn't really Locatelli's game, but when Artur comes back, if Locatelli slides to one of those positions on the side that can be more advanced, that maybe changes things and helps us a bit. But he's still not even that profile. We just saw it at the Euros and it worked fantastic. But again, it's still not his game, making those runs that we could have killed Milan with yesterday and whatnot. So there's still a set of characteristics we need to find. Cliff.
So I know everybody's going to attack me for saying this, but we need Pogba. That is who we need. Pogba is the player that will take Juve over the edge, because the thing is, he's not the same young kid anymore. He has experience. You pair him up with an Artur and Locatelli in that midfield, or McKinney and Locatelli in the midfield, where you have the defensive players sitting back. Pogba is going to go up and attack more. When he was given that freedom at Juve originally, he was never a defensive player. He could defend when he wanted to, but he was really best when he was being able to be creative and do what he wanted with the ball, even with the national team too. When he's surrounded by quality players, he can make things happen. And the thing is, nobody's calling United to get him right now. It seems like nobody's asking around for him. And the amount that Juve spent on Rabiot and Ramsey on their wages, I would much rather spend that much on Pogba for his wages. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I think Pogba would be a really good addition to this team. I know it's very wishful thinking, but we'll see.
Well, I feel like Sandro. I want to give a shout out to Sandro. Sandro did a lot of work. He kept running up until the 60th minute. It was fantastic and exactly what you expect of him. But he wouldn't be able to do that all season long, and that's where I'm still missing someone. That left-hand side could be Sandro's for one half, maybe in a game, but you have to drop off and do his defensive work. So I'm missing. Rabiot doesn't do what I expect him to do on the left side. Dybala wasn't there. Quadrado wasn't there. Morata wasn't there. So we need someone with that profile who can be a midfielder but can also play a bit on the wing and cover defensively. Locatelli did that for Italy pretty well, so it might be good.
Yeah. Getting back to the Pogba thing, I mean, it is wishful thinking. I would love Pogba back. I think it'd be silly for anyone not to. You make a good point on the salary, because we're pretty much paying Ramsey for nothing. And if you took Rabiot and Ramsey's salary, you're going down to one midfielder, but it's one midfielder better than both. And we are pretty much with one midfielder, even with Ramsey and Rabiot, because Ramsey never plays. Luka, I don't care if you're going to get upset with what I'm saying right now, because it's just true. Ramsey's been a non-factor.
Yeah, but the thing is, if it's mutual, if Pogba wants to come to you,
it's not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It's not. And the Haaland thing too, for Juventini, for me, it's just like, guys, I made a tweet yesterday, and it's pretty much, we get Haaland when he's 36 years old. Okay, that ship has sailed. I would love to be wrong on it. Okay, if Haaland comes next year or 2 years from now, I'll give a kid away. Okay, I'll give somebody a free jersey because there's just no. I don't see it. The ship has sailed.
You can keep
Zero
your kids. I
chance.
just want to tell you I told you so. That's it. Haaland
Okay.
is coming.
Okay. I'll wait. The financials would probably like depending on what happens with Pogba's contract and everything like that. You could maybe swing that one, but Haaland, man, I can't see is so much money, and everybody talks about his release clause and that it's less than what Vlahovic's may be, which may turn out to be 80 million euros. But the fact is, it's all the extras on top of it. We're looking at a 70 million um, deficit that's going to turn into potentially like 200. Okay. So to spend what would amount to be 150-ish once all said and done, factoring in this low release clause apparently for Haaland,
Not happening.
I cannot see this, you guys. I'm sorry. I think we need
Honestly,
to.
though, I think Juve set with Keane. I think they should never have gotten rid of him in the first place. I think he's a centerpiece that Juve could build around. And even in the future, if they end up changing formations at some point, I could see Chiesa and Keane playing up top together. I think they'd be perfect playing off each other in a 1-2 striker tandem.
And Cliff brings in Chiesa. This is another thing that's kind of been shifting from this game. Is everybody factoring in a lot of concern from Juventini about Allegri potentially ruining Chiesa? How do we get Chiesa in this squad and being effective? Because if Allegri wants to continue with the 4-4-2 that shifts into this attacking 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, utilizing that outside winger, does Chiesa automatically replace Cuadrado, or does Chiesa shift with one of the two up top? This is a tough one. Well, how do you guys think we get Chiesa involved?
Well, and touched on it on the last pod because it depends on the game. Like last night, we didn't need Chiesa from the start because Allegri had a plan to like nullify Teo Hernandez and Leao. We have a lot of speed to their attacks, so we use Danilo and Cuadrado who do a lot of dirty work. I don't think Chiesa would have provided the same cover Cuadrado provided yesterday. But against an Empoli, hands down Chiesa. Instead of Cuadrado and the rotations, we have to rotate, find a way to get Chiesa in there. Yeah, Cuadrado might be the one who has to give up his spot, but you can't pass on a young Italian talent like Chiesa just so Cuadrado can feel comfortable. I'm sorry. I love him, but we can't pass out on that.
Yeah, maybe
Real
from the
quick, I
start,
honestly
Chiesa
think-
attacks all that space, and that's maybe the difference yesterday. You know, another goal or whatnot. There was a lot of space there, and I was like, my God, Chiesa's got to have a field day out there. But we didn't get him in until later on, and the game shifted a lot in that time, waiting for him coming out. Right, Cliff?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to try to cut you off there. I was gonna say, I think
Don't ever do it
Chiesa-
again, newbie.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I honestly think Cuadrado is so like pivotal to this team. I really think you can replace him because last season he was so great at getting up and putting in great crosses to help us score. I really think you can replace him. His work rate defensively obviously isn't the best, but to me, I think you can't replace Cuadrado and what he brings, in terms of his flair and also his experience. I think honestly, you replace Morata up top with Chiesa and you put him with Dybala, just because Morata, I think he's a guy that you put in as like a super sub essentially, and like when you have corners in the second half, you have a big body like that who can get headers on the ball, and then maybe he's like a poacher when the ball is in the box, he just one hit finishes it, and then I mean you have to think about it, Chiesa and Dybala up top. Chiesa's gonna be running all over the place. Dybala will find him wherever he goes. So I personally think it's a fair switch saying Chiesa over Morata because, in my opinion, Morata a lot of the times he gets stuck out on the wing with the ball, tries to do a move on the defender and gets the ball taken away from him. He's best when he's up top. I think is a super sub and he gets the opportunity to run by people when everybody else is tired.
I can't go with Chiesa and Dybala up top.
Okay.
Personally, I don't see that working, man. And for the reason is because Dybala needs to work off a target guy. He needs to work off somebody that's got the strong hold up play that he can use as a pivot and kind of get involved. I think with Chiesa and Dybala, it just I really don't see Chiesa as a two-man attacking player. I see him as a guy out wide that you utilize in 1v1 scenarios. You need to trigger him in 1v1s. The more I look at this squad, and I understand Allegri might be concerned with the defensive phase and creating that organization, this team screams like a 4-2-3-1, man. Honestly, Chiesa on one side, Morata up top, take your pick on the left side out of Keane, Kulishevsky. I think it'll help Kulishevsky too, being utilized that way. And then your two pivot midfielders, honestly. And I think you go with it. I think, honestly, even Cuadrado, as you can put Chiesa on the left side, put Cuadrado on the right, still hold down some of that defensive stability. Danilo behind Cuadrado on the right, Sandro behind Chiesa on the left, protection. I think it's going to be the best for us to be able to attack more and not be so one-dimensional and like have to just rely on counters and do more in terms of buildup. But yeah, if you've got Chiesa and you can utilize him on 1v1s, that's where he does his damage. Trying to use him in a partnership up top seems a little off to me. That's just my personal opinion. Anthony, what are you thinking?
I'll disagree with Cliff on the fact that a player like Morata can't come on in the 50th minute. A player like that a striker always needs to kind of get into the groove. They need to get into the feel of the game. They can't have their first touch being, their only chance in the 75th minute. They got to be in there from the start. That's why I think Keane is probably struggling. These types of players, they need to be in there from minute one. I fully agree that the 4-2-3-1 is a better setup because you need Chiesa on one side, and you can't sacrifice Juan for Chiesa. They both have to play.
Yeah.
So I think Max realizes that, and one of them has to play the left, and it's I can't remember who mentioned it, but I think it was Lou. Chiesa's a good player on the left to cut in with his right foot.
Yeah.
I think that's going to kind of stymie Sandro a little bit because Chiesa is more of a forward-pushing player, and Sandro's been looking good with Rabiot coming back, and he's been able to fill in that space. So hopefully that
That's
doesn't.
a sacrifice I make, though.
It's a sacrifice you have to make because Sandro's playing well in that sort of system, right?
Yeah.
And but I think you're right. For Chiesa, that's the swap that has to be made.
Omar, what do you think? Is that how you get Chiesa in?
Yeah, 4-2-3-1 seems the most fitting formation for this team. And I gotta say, the game was the tempo was crazy. It was attacks left and right, and getting in a sub late to get into this high tempo is pretty much suicidal. Like if you brought them in on the 55th, maybe 60th minute, then they have time to settle. But like Keane and Chiesa were thrown into there, and they weren't up to the speed of the game, and that's what I saw. But if I was a neutral fan, it was a crazy game. A lot of attacks, a lot of speed on both ends, a lot of good chances, and the sub just needed to come in earlier. Granted, Chiesa came after an injury, so that might have affected it a bit. But when he is fit, he's the one who should start. I don't care who is left out. Chiesa is the main man right now.
Yeah. I think it's going to be critical for Juve to get him involved, like immediately. Like Allegri's got to get him involved.
And I think he knows that. I don't think Allegri's stupid. I think.
Oh no.
Maybe he switched this 4-4-2 because of the absence of Chiesa. You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Cliff.
Cliff rebuttal.
I want to say, I'm not saying that would be perfect playing Chiesa up top. I'm just saying that's something he should experiment with. But I do agree with you guys. 4-2-3-1 is what they should be playing. I think you find a way because think about it. Chiesa on the left, that could be the new Insigne where he's cutting in on his left or on his right foot doing the tira giro. I think that could actually work very well. Chiesa on one side, Cuadrado the other side. With a 4-2-3-1, McKinney and Locatelli holding down the midfield because I think they're both good defensive presence. And then you have Dybala at the camp. And then you have, in my opinion, I think Keane needs more time. So I guess Morata for now you play up top. But I think at some point you make the shift to Keane because I think he's the future. I think you play him up top at some point going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Keane and Morata as being the rotational guys. I love that rotation out of those two. I think it's solid. I like the fact that Keane's versatile enough; he can go anywhere across that front three, which is great. But yeah, I think Allegri's working on it. It's getting better. That's the general consensus with most Juventini right now is that it is getting better, which is the main thing. If you look at the first couple games and you look at yesterday's, it's a world of difference. It's just some fine tuning now, but he does have to get Chiesa involved because one of our biggest impact guys, and he's got to start getting in there. The other thing to keep in mind too for everybody is that Chiesa obviously wasn't available for Malmo, and maybe there was still some risk involved yesterday, right? So that could potentially be it too. Like Anthony said, I'm not concerned with Allegri not fitting in the Chiesa and whatnot. I think he'll make it happen, and we will see it. Um, One of the things that came in on Twitter off our post here was that thoughts on the culture, um, the culture at Juventus. Okay, he says Bobby Jojakowski. What a last name. Okay, we're gonna call him Bobby D because that last name's a nightmare. I feel like the Curva Sud used to be such an advantage, and now no one fears us. Um, how do you guys personally feel as Juventini just about the culture at the club, this change, and what's going on with our Curva and our ultras?
Yeah,
Personal thoughts on the matter, and how big of an impact do you think it actually plays to the team?
yeah. Well, Anthony.
Well, this whole issue with the ultras and the Curva was happening before COVID, right? This was happening 3 years ago, where some of them were banned and they weren't allowed to bring in their banners or items like that, right? So there was, I think, issues with ticket sales, right? There was a whole bunch of items that were, the management and them were already clashing on. It's definitely an advantage, something that's I think needed. I don't understand the intricacies of what the argument is on both sides, but fully agree. It's a disadvantage when you don't have that sort of passion coming from that end of crowd, or for both ends, because they have them on both sides. But something that needs to be fixed. But in this new age of everyone trying to move towards the sort of premiership style of stands or culture there, where it's more family friendly and less issues with crowds, other than the racist pricks you have over there. But we have those in Italy too. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to kind of get that passion back when the management's sort of going to this different model of the type of fan they want in the stadium.
Yeah, yeah, Omar.
It's definitely important. It's definitely missing the atmosphere for the players. You can see a shift in our DNA that was the never say die, the fino alla fine, and we became much more fragile. And a goal at the 70-minute breaks everyone's spirit. It wasn't like that a few years ago, back to 2017 maybe. And the Curva provides a lot of that, I believe. I don't want to get into what they're doing or their beef with the management, because I don't really know what's going on there. But on the surface, they're definitely missing. Why? It's a different question and a different matter that I don't have enough information to talk about. But the overall feel is that the players are missing them, the fans are missing them, the stadium is missing them most of all.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough scenario. I think it's one we gotta correct. When players start speaking out on things like that, I think you kind of gotta deal with it if you're management. And I don't know if this is an Agnelli, stubbornness side of things with how it all kind of began and started and unfolded. But I think overall, if you're in charge of the club and you're running the ship, you gotta write these types of things, especially when some of your big guys start talking about it. right? And they have been. They have been vocal about it. It's just one of the things that's interesting when you look at all this and the atmosphere. And some fans were suggesting we were playing away because you could hear the Milan fans in that little sliver in that corner section of that stadium. I want to see it back to the place we know. And we talked about it earlier because we're celebrating 10 years at home. Okay, this place has been a fortress for us. The top home record in all top 5 leagues, Juventus holds with like a 95% win percentage. He's got to get it right. He's got to get it right and sort it out. We're getting ready to. We're just pretty much wrapping up here, and a couple little things to note is that Juve players who played last night trained in the gym today. The rest of the players took to the pitch. Tomorrow they will leave for Spezia, okay, which will be the midweek match for Juventus. I expect a pretty fair rotation in there, but we got to get 3 points there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Has to be a win. Absolutely has to be. There's a report coming from Sky saying that there's a lot of anger, disappointment in the air at Continassa. Just players, management, everyone just really, really frustrated, trying to figure out where the problem lies. I don't really know how Sky Sport can put that last part in there that that they don't know or understand or are unable to identify where the real problem lies. Because I think Allegri's already shown a shift. He's onto it. We just got to give them a little bit more time, right? Full faith in the guys getting it done. But yeah, Wednesday absolutely has to be a victory. And I believe we will get it. We are going to have a match day live on Wednesday, okay? Prior to that match, we're going to get ready for it. We're going to get jacked up. It's going to be a victory. I'll call it right now. Juventus will win that match, okay? I'll give you the score on our predictions on that show. And yeah, I've been off as of late, but I'm going to nail that one on Wednesday.
Not this guy.
Promise. Oh, easy. Did you call 1-1 draw yesterday?
Called 1-0. A lot closer than you guys.
Oh, so you were wrong.
You're
There's no levels of
inconsistent.
wrong. It's wrong.
You're inconsistent. After the Malmo game, you said we're going to steamroll over Milan. Then you just call out a 1-0 win. You're inconsistent, man.
I don't know who Omar's talking to. He's pointing at the screen. He's talking to
this guy.
me.
Yeah, you were good.
I called the draw, by the way.
Oh, no one's asking you, new guy.
Hey man, if it wasn't on the show and recorded, nobody believes you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So
And you're inconsistent like you, so it's fitting.
guys, real quick before we sign off, if you had to give a man of the match for the Juve Milan performance, who was your pick and why? And who did you feel had the lowest rating? So your highest and your lowest rating as we wrap up and we get ready for Wednesday's match against Spezia.
New guy. Starters only. Starters only.
So,
Starters.
I'd probably say Tech. He saved us in the end. So I'd give him the man of the match just because he made some really crucial saves, and if it wasn't for Rabiot, he put him in the right position on the corner. So I think he did everything right in this match, and you can't take anything away from him. The lowest, I'd probably have to say it's tough because I think there was like a lot. Betancourt started getting tired, so I don't want to put too much on him. But I think Betancourt, because he missed some really crucial passes that could have gotten us some good opportunities. So I'm going to put it on Betancourt, but with the caveat that I think most of the game he played decent.
Yeah, there you go. Anthony.
Man of the match. I had some notes here. I'll give it to Dybala. Had a great first half, kind of disappeared in the second half. It was a close one between him and Bonucci. I'll go with Bonucci on this one. I thought Bonucci had a very, very solid game. Lowest rated. I would go with Rabiot. He had a great good first half, then kind of fell off, fatigue, whatever it was. I'll give Rabiot the lowest marks.
Yeah, Omar.
Yeah, so man of the match goes to Danilo. He might have had the toughest job against these two young speed devils, and he was up to it, and nothing came from that area of the pitch. So man of the match for me, and I give the disappointment to Rabiot because, if he doesn't lose Rebic on that goal, then he had a pretty solid game. But in the end, it pretty much cost us. Maybe Locatelli lost him, but you could see Tech yelling at Rabiot to occupy that space. So if he got us the match, then it should be the disappointment. Other than that, I said in the beginning, everyone were pretty solid up until the 70th minute.
Yeah. So for me, it's tough because I feel like you can say the same for a lot of the guys is that really, really strong majority of their performance, but then big drop off. But I think Dybala for me, probably for man of the match, set up Morata on the breakaway that obviously was on a great counter that sprung loose. If I had to go the lowest rating, it would probably be Locatelli. And again, I feel for him because Milan did a good job to neutralize him and everything. But at the end of the day, regardless of the other guys getting gassed and the amount of work that Bentancur and Rabiot both did to make up for it was a lot. And they got fatigued. They got fatigued pretty early on into it, like probably 60th, 65th. Like you could see they were really gassed. But the amount of work that they had to do to compensate was huge. And then ultimately it was Locatelli's guy who got free on him for the free header. And that was the only time we got punished. And it might be harsh on him. He had some good defensive work, making some big challenges and stuff like that. But ultimately, he didn't really impact the game. So while the other guys, misplaced passes, some troubling opportunities on certain sides of things, they were still much more involved than Locatelli. So unfortunately, I might be being a bit harsh on him, but I'm going to give him just slightly the lowest rating. And it is close with probably Rabiot. But again, I think Rabiot worked his bag off in that game. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I feel like it's almost bad to give one of those guys in the lowest rating because they all actually work so hard in the middle of that game. It's just somebody's got to take it, right? Somebody's got to take the fall. So, guys, it's been great recapping what was a draw. That was a rough draw, but I think we're getting there, aren't we? The team's going to get there. Team's going to get there. Will we be able to compete enough? I think so. Napoli obviously plays today. Okay. The potential is for Juve to end up where 10 points behind. We've only got 2 now. It's the worst start in what was it, like 60 years or something for Juventus?
Yeah, from the
They've done it
60s,
a couple times where they haven't pulled a victory in the first 4 matches, which again, I'm not overly concerned right now, again, because we have to have perspective. This isn't a Juve that's been steamrolling, and all of a sudden we find ourselves here. This is a Juve that's trying to find themselves. This is a
Yeah.
Juve that's trying to regroup, that's trying to rebuild, that's trying to work at something. So to try and hold them to something that we haven't been for a bit, it's pretty hard. We
And
got to take some
the,
knocks.
and the best season ever in Serie A belongs to us with 33 wins. So even in that season, we lost points in 7 games, and that's the best ever. No team has matched it. No team has come close. So the other teams are going to drop points in more than 7 games this season. Nothing is finished. Nothing is closed. The league is still wide open. We're going to get back up there and do our thing. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too. I think Allegri, he nailed it on the head when he said that about this year's Serie A, is that no one team's going to run away with this thing. So just a little bit of patience is okay, but we do have to get it going. And wins against Spezia and Samp coming up have to absolutely be there, right? So we start there. Wednesday, thank you everybody who joined live. Cliff, great having you aboard. Awesome that you can make it for the very first post match since joining. Omar, always a pleasure. Anthony had to take off a little bit early, which is fine. Always massive thanks to him. And guys, stay tuned because we're going to have a pretty cool announcement involving Cliff. and another project of the All Juve casts. Okay, so yeah, we'll have an announcement on that in the coming days. And yeah, everybody that was tuning in to this on audio, get over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, set the notification reminders for these lives, and you can take part in the show. We always get a ton of great questions and great live chats going on. So make sure you head over there. Yeah, just everybody remain patient, stay calm, trust the process. We got quite a few good players. We'll be okay. They'll get it right. Allegri will get it right. We've been here before. Okay. We've had some bad starts. And what's the saying that always follows Allegri around? We peak in March. We peak in March.
Yeah,
Take
it's a
it
marathon. It's a marathon.
There you go. There you go. Relax, everybody. Match day live Wednesday. Get over here to the All Juve cast. We'll get ready for Spezia, and I already promised a win, so the team must deliver. We'll talk to you all then. As always, no matter what, nothing changes this. It's Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Ciao.